ask this: what do you see from them? Obviously, scoring a lot of points, even though they're losing games.
Probably schematically the best offense that we've played. They 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 put pressure on you in ways that a lot of people don't. Um, Coach Sarkeesian does an unbelievable job. You can go all the way as back as far as you want to. You don't have to go any further than the playoff games last year to see how he stresses people schematically. So that's probably the number one thing. The number two thing is player wise, just explosiveness, particularly receiver. And oh yeah, yeah. And then the backs are still good. Obviously, five was it was in my mind just watching crossover film all year. He's special. Um, I would say one of the top backs in the country in a line of really really good backs. Um, Very similar to Brees Hall. I think it's a little more juice to me. But it just there's a reason they've scored on everybody. And
With Thompson, is there anybody you would compare him to that you played this year? Or does he have his own style?
he's really kind of his own style. It's very very doesn't run often, but when he does, it's very effective. Has the athleticism and the speed to do it, and then has the awareness off of those plays and those actions to deliver the ball wherever he needs to. Has the arm strength to deliver some of the hardest RPOs that you'll defend in some tight windows. So extremely talented.
What you've seen does it seem like Sark has been able to install all of his offense at this point in year one? Like, I don't know, maybe you haven't gone past.
I don't know if it's all of it. I think where any coach does a nice job is they install what their personnel can do, and they fit that to their personnel, and they make if they have personnel deficiencies, they make what they have better, and then they ex- emphasize what the ones that are really good, as those strengths, and get them the ball. And so that's good coaching.
You've been hitting a couple positions, linebacker and safety. Is it one of those deals where you just kind of take it out through the week and see what looks good and what you're going to do, the tweaks you make until you play the game on Saturday?
Well, I mean, you got what you got, and so our job is to figure out how to, what's the best situation for whoever we have to put in those roles, how they can be successful. Again, I think I don't know if that's good coaching. It's just coaching. That's what you have to do, and so you just have to. You can't. The worst thing I've always said this that anybody can do is ask a young man to do something that's not going to allow him to be successful because it works on paper, or you can draw it up, or you can figure it out. It don't matter what I can figure out. What can they do? So you just have to find that. You have to find that combination, and then obviously the combination that allows you to. That's the pieces in the places you need to be to stop whatever you're trying to stop. So that's just that's why we're up here as much as we are. So
Linebacker depth wise, are there a couple walk-ons, Schoonover, Beiser, that you could get a snap or two out of if emergency purposes?
I don't think I'd go that far. We can use if you got to use the bandits in some different ways, you can get some stuff. You can get some reps there. But we're kind of filling that out today at practice and see how it goes. But I don't think we got to go that far.
How often is it you go into a week with a plan, say on Monday or Tuesday, then you watch it through the week and it doesn't look the way you want it to, and then Thursday or Friday you're going, we got to make some big changes. Is that often that happens?
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's week is different, but you work into the situations that are most important when you get to Saturday. All right. So, example, third down red zone is really important. You're going to focus on that the closer you get to the game. I think everybody would do that. All right, but there are you always have to have, you always try to have a plan that your kids can execute. It's pretty simple. If you must do something to stop a certain thing, then you have to make it and rep it enough to where if it's not something that you've done, that you make it simple enough through repetition. And then a lot of times, in this league and at this level, a lot of your changes happen on game day, if you're willing to do them. A lot of guys aren't, but you have to. Everybody has how they're going to attack and enough offense that you have to. I think Saturday when we settled down, we went to 2 calls we hadn't run since one of them since Maryland. But it's in our base defense, in our spring and our summer things that we rep. And so that's why you have those answers, so that when you see something, you're like, oh, okay, we got to go back to this. And probably is game day is as many changes as any day.
Most of the seniors, I think, on the team on your side of the ball, and this will be their last home game. But what I'm interested in is they've gone through a lot, whether they transferred in here or whether they were here through a coaching change, COVID, NIL, transfer portal. I mean, they've had senior careers like no other senior class probably. How have you had to handle that? How have they handled it?
Well, I think they've handled it great for the most. The thing about it is to their credit, all of those things you said. Not one. None of those kids asked for. They don't go and say, hey, we want this situation or this situation. I mean, not that that's. I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just they don't. The kids at this level, they don't come up and say, hey, I don't specifically remember any of them going and making NIL happen. I know they were all for it. So any time that you're in that situation as a kid, and I think they've handled it fine. And kind of rolled with the changes as they come. And so I think the guys that are out there have done a great job with it.
How do you address your guys preparing for a team that's not going to have Robinson? Do you tell them, hey, listen, the backup had more offers than you did out of high school, and they've got a bunch of talented guys, or do you just plan on what you see and go from there?
I just think you have to show them the schedule. And, Bijan Robinson didn't score all the points. A lot of them, yeah, but not all of them. So they've scored on everybody, against every style of defense, on every opponent. They've scored on the best teams in our league. They scored on some of the really good teams not in our league. And so, I don't really put a lot into. They're talented. They're one of the most talented offenses we played, top to bottom.
They're pretty productive in the red zone, touchdowns especially too. Robinson was part of that. How do you diagnose now without him in there, and then they're still going to try to get touchdowns? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something you look at during the week. That's usually something we start on tonight and tomorrow, is looking at red zone tendencies and what guys like to do in those different zones. I break it down into 2 zones, but I think anybody that's that explosive, once they get there, advantage them, because you create so many short area matchups, and when you're athletic and explosive like they are, once they find those matchups, it makes it hard, makes it tough. So, I haven't got to that point yet, but I know that they're really, really good down there.
Difference with and without Robinson, do they have you seen that they use those backup running backs in the same way? Like, is there anything different about the way that they use those guys when it is Robinson versus when it isn't Robinson?
No, not really. They've used their running backs. We've seen Johnson now for 2 years. Different coaches, different offense, but same style of play, same formation, same shift motions. I just think it's what the volume is going to be with how. I don't think it's the how. I think it's obviously he's the best one, so they just use him more. I don't think they'll use him any different. 7, 2 is a kid that's very similar to me, to Letty, and then 7 is really just as fast as Robinson.
How many practice reps does Josh get at will prior? I mean, 'cause it looks like he'll have to see time there. So does he practice there at all during this?
I mean, he played there for 2 years prior, so it's not anything that's really new to him. Probably not a lot, honestly, because we'll figure out some different ways to do the same things. But if we have to, he played 2 full seasons there, started one of them, so he'll be fine.
What kind of flexibility does Scotty give you the way he's played of late?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Can play that position in a number of different ways. He plays one of our third safeties in a package, which gives you flexibility there. So, the thing about Scotty is very similar to what I said about Jackie a couple weeks ago. Scotty finds the ball, and that's a talent in itself. If you can move that guy around in space, not necessarily around the box all the time, then he can, and you can get the ball to him, then he can help you.
Worthy caught a lot of passes last week, but he was targeted a ton too. How alarming is that? And then do you do anything? It's very easy to just say like double him or bracket him, but that might also play into their plan for different things. Does that number get you thinking at all about how you have to respond?
Yeah, I mean, you have to know where he is. I mean, that's just a part of that player, that offense, how they like to use him, and then usually when you do find him, they move him. So you got to find him again, that's the chess match. So they're going to get him the ball. We know that, and they're going to get him the ball, and he's going to make some plays. He has against everybody. He's not going. It's not like he's not going to stop that. I'd be naive to think that. So he's going to have to constantly adjust to where he's at, how they're trying to use him, because they're going to use him in a lot of different ways. They've been pretty open about it. They're going to get him 15, 20 touches a game. So we just know that, hey, we're going to have to find him wherever he's at.
They've given up a lot of sacks this year. 24, I think, 30 hurries. What do you see from their offensive line? Is it the way they're calling the plays? What are you seeing where they're getting pressure?
Yeah, I mean, their offensive line is one of the better ones we faced. I think more than anything, a lot of if I go back to the Oklahoma game, Oklahoma plays a lot of man and pressures a lot. And some teams live by that, and some teams can do that. Not all teams can do that. That's one part of it. I think the other part is, some of their stuff, some of the plays they have are real long developing plays, especially down the field pass plays. And so, two teams that probably did a better job than anybody, just with simple rush, probably Arkansas and Iowa State, if I watch those games. But I don't necessarily think it's because of one thing. I know it's not because, and I will say this, there's a kid at Kansas, number 15, that played, I've seen a lot of crossover film, and I guess he had the right stuff last Saturday night, because he got after it pretty good. He's a bandit, weak side DN, however they term him, but he got after it pass rushing, and that's the only time I've ever seen any one person really kind of have that kind of night. And Kansas, you watch the game, and a lot of guys had good nights. So, but he was one of them. That's the only one that I've seen that's really created a mismatch anywhere. And kudos to that kid. But other than that, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. But their offensive line they're big, they're talented, and for the most part do a good job.
Anything else for Coach Lesley?
Thanks, guys.